Bang.
All right, and we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show, and we've got some exciting guests here, especially if you have no idea what SEO is or what an SEO-er is. I don't know, I'll probably be corrected later on. But we've got Fletch and Steven. I'm going to let that hang in suspense for a minute. Some of you already know them, some of you don't. But we are going to be talking all about SEO and all the awesomeness that goes into it. But for full disclosure, we want to let everybody know, as we always do let you know, that any product that we refer or recommend, if you decide to invest in it, we will be compensated for it. And by we, I mean I. So thanks, Fletch. Thanks, Stephen, for your help on that. But I'm only recommending products that I know are absolutely powerful and awesome and amazing for you. Of course, you need to do your own due diligence, but with that in mind, we can go ahead and move on with the interview. So I want to start with Fletch because he's got he has a very interesting past. So we'll start with Fletch and then we'll jump over to Steven. So how did you get involved with all of this stuff, Fletch?
I think I had bad luck long enough that good luck finally kind of found me at just the right time. I've been involved with OMG for about 2.5 years now. I'm 41, so I wasn't like an early to the market type as far as online marketing goes. I really I found online marketing and specifically found SEO really in a position of kind of desperation. I was 38, had just gotten married for the first time, wound up kind of acquiring an 8-year-old daughter in the mix, and had a construction company here in Phoenix. I still live here, so I was climbing around in people's attics doing home improvement, focused primarily on energy efficiency. So I was fixing people's air conditioners in 145-degree attics in the summertime here in Phoenix. It wasn't very fun, but it did let me kind of pay the bills and do things like that. Got to really this kind of turning point in my life, which occurred while I was climbing around in the attic, and got a phone call from my wife letting me know that the utility company had turned the water off. And it really just kind of smacked me in the face. It's just more than even a wake-up call, just like you retrace the steps of what led you to the point where you are now. And I at first was mad, and then I was mad at the utility company, and then I was mad at myself. But kind of by the time I crawled on my belly out of the insulation and got in my truck to go home, I also knew that I had to do something to get myself out of that position. And the issue that I had with the construction company that I was running, and when I say construction company, it was me and subcontractors that I lined up. It wasn't like I had a lot of employees. The issue that I really had was I just didn't get enough phone calls. And I knew kind of inherently that there was a lot of stuff going on the internet that potentially could solve that problem for me. I didn't know how. I didn't know about search engine optimization. I didn't know about pay-per-click. I didn't know about email marketing or anything else. I'm not trying to pretend I wasn't, I knew how to sell myself. That's what I had to do for a living. But these tools that really made it a lot easier were not something that was familiar to me. So I essentially kind of went on the internet and looked. I looked for ways to market my business better on the internet, and wound up coming across a webinar that Mike Long and Greg Morrison had done, where they were essentially kind of talking about search engine optimization, about getting free traffic from Google, generating phone calls, generating sales, and things like that. And just in hearing it, it made sense. It kind of clicked. Like, oh yeah, it's obviously there's a huge potential to make a lot of money off the internet. But then, of course, the first thing I did skeptically was, hey, I really have no money. I don't even have enough money to buy this product. But is this really work? And that was fortunately, for me, where Mike and David, who founded the company, understood that a lot of people who buy things on the internet are skeptical. They rightfully should be skeptical because there's not a lot of proof behind the earnings claims that a lot of people have. So even at that time, they had lined up kind of just normal people that had bought into OMG machines, and had made money with the traffic that they were getting from organic rankings on Google SEO. So, I watched enough of them. There was a particular guy, Lonnie, that I still talk to from time to time. He was a basketball coach. He still is a basketball coach, kind of, and I think he's in Austin, Texas. And he was just, really humble, normal guy who had, wanted to get to a better place in life. And he was an AAU basketball coach, which, if people don't know, it's kind of like a summer league basketball, where you've got to, as a coach, fill your team up. That's what you get paid for, and then you play a season. So he had essentially ranked for AAU basketball league keywords in Austin, Texas, and wound up making something like $70,000 or $80,000 in a couple months. And I was like, if the
wait, how much?
Yeah, 70 or 80 grand. I can't remember the exact number. But yeah, and I was just like,
just
okay,
doing what he normally does, like just
doing what he normally does,
and then showing it online. Wow.
Exactly. So, it was stories like that, when you've got just one after another, and you can tell these guys, they're not really polished, presentation style salespeople. They're not. It wasn't that they hired a bunch of actors to tell the stories of other people. They were just real people. And they weren't compensated for the testimonial or the story that they were telling about kind of the transformation they'd experienced, that let me kind of have my due diligence done, taken care of. So then the real issue presented itself, which was, I can't pay for this. I need it, but I can't pay for it. So I had talked with my wife, and she said, honey, I trust you. We can't stay here. If this isn't where we want to be, we've got to move on. And what I did was, essentially, I sold my truck, and I sold some other equipment that I had that were the ways I made money currently. I didn't make much money. I didn't even make enough money, but they were the only tools that I had to make money with. So I sold those and bought into OMG, and I'm glad I did. It turned out that I learned what I needed to learn. I worked hard. It took a lot of hours because it was something I didn't have experience with. But within 60 days, I had deposited almost $11,000. That was profit for me. So that more than paid for,
Wow.
any of the tuition, any of the overhead I had, put me well on my way to not only living a better life, but seeing some potential outside of just being a construction worker. So yeah, like I said, that was coming up on 3 years ago now, and things have been really good since then.
3 years, and so
yeah.
so let me understand this, and I like the word that you used, this transformation. Your transformation. You took the only things that were making you money, and sold them to get OMG machines, and like you put yourself in a definite sink or swim situation. Like, what I want to ask is, do you think that's where the transformation happened, like where it was like, okay, sink or swim, I got to go outside my comfort zone and do this new thing that I believe is better than what I'm currently doing?
Yeah, that's really astute. I absolutely believe that. I think one of the reasons that it had taken a while for me to kind of get to that point in my life, growing up and in college, I was an athlete. My dream was to play in the NFL. Going into my senior year of football, I played Division I football. Going into my senior year, I had a best friend who died on the field, about 10 feet away from me.
Whoa, on the field?
On the field. And the next day I wound up breaking my leg and sit in the hospital for 3 days waiting for surgery. And there was a lot of stuff that happened during that time that just kind of really put me in a funk. And, looking back on it now, I kind of got stuck there. It was kind of this whole glory days. I having a goal for the past, which is, kind of crazy, but, I won't say life was bad, but it just didn't really mean much. I traveled around, I, dated, a lot of people. I had odd jobs. There were times I made a lot of money. There were also times that, the creditors were hounding me. So, I kind of got to the point where it's like, okay, you know what, this is serious now, and there's an opportunity to do a ton of good and kind of get back my identity. And I think what I realized in that moment was that there's no way I'm going to ever get off first base and get to second base unless I leave first base. I'm not going to ever progress unless I'm willing to take the risk of getting to that next level. I don't think there's many situations in life, especially as an entrepreneur, especially if you have, big aspirations of freedom, of money, of whatever lifestyle you want, where you're going to be able to do that safely. There's risk involved, and biggest risk is, for me, in that point where I made that decision, the biggest risk for me was that I would never have that life I envisioned if I didn't take a chance. So, when I kind of got to that point, the only choice I really had was, well, okay, what do I sell? Do I sell this or that? And the thing that I could sell the fastest would happen to be my truck and some of my technical equipment for construction. So that's what I did, because I wanted to make this transition as fast as I could.
All right, so now my next question has to do with more of what exactly you did to get that 11,000. But before I do, I would actually like to introduce the next guest. So hold on to that, because we'll come back to that. So the next guest is Stephen Floyd. Hi, Stephen. Do you ever get anybody asking you about, like, are you a part of Pink Floyd, the band, or anything? Floyd?
Yeah, that's what I always, for some reason, people always have trouble when I'm on the phone understanding my last name. So this is going to date me just a little bit. I used to say, yeah, like Floyd the barber, right? Like, you probably don't even get that reference.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to contribute to that.
But now, yeah, I always say, yeah, Pink Floyd. Ironically, or whatever, it's actually my favorite band. Pink Floyd is
nice.
So it actually works out. So.
Nice, awesome. So I'm interested. Like, we were talking a little bit before, and you told me you were honorably discharged Army Ranger.
Yeah. I served in the military. I was airborne infantry. Served from '89 to '92. Panama Invasion, Desert Storm, all that good stuff. So good. Best times and worst times all at once.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Really, I have no military experience, so thanks for that, because if you weren't there, then I'd be there, and I sleep in and stuff. So anyway, that's a nice little pinpoint to start from. So tell me the story, your origin story of becoming this SEO, this guy that does internet stuff, right?
Yeah, well, my story is pretty straightforward. When I left the Army, I started doing technology work. I actually worked for Microsoft for a period of time doing technical support. And that turned into me doing various different types of computer services for different businesses as a consultant. And in 2004, there was a company called Gurus to Go. And that company, think like Geek Squad. So this was a national on-demand computer repair service for residential and business customers. So I joined that team. I was the subject matter expert, and my partner was the business guy, right? And we were able to parlay that in a few years into a business that we sold for 7 figures. But the key to that was that I spent about almost a year back in 2004 figuring out how to rank on Google. And once I figured it out, we were actually #1 for the keywords computer repair we were #1 until we sold the company, really almost a year after we sold the company. And that's what made the business so successful. That's back in the day when you could actually be globally ranked. So 2004, 2005, 2006, in any version of Google that was English, if you typed in computer repair, you got our company, Gurus to Go, #1.
Wow, computer repair, that's like the original saturated keyword.
I tell you what, I was competing against Best Buy's Geek Squad. Back then, the Circuit City, which is now defunct, had what they called the Fire Dogs. Staples had what they called the Easy Mobile Techs. And the now mostly defunct CompUSA had what they called technologists. But all of these were competitors of ours. All of these were companies who you'd go to their website, you'd order service, and they would send a technician to you. We beat them out consistently across the board. And one of the keys was that we used subcontractors. So we didn't have direct employees and all the overhead. Our very first call, I'll never forget, our very first call for a customer was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I got on the phone and I went to Yahoo at the time, Yahoo Yellow Pages, and I typed in computer repair, right? And I called until I found a guy who was willing to go do the call for us, like white labeled. And we paid $55 an hour with a 1 hour minimum.
Wow.
And we charged $100 an hour. And from that first call, by the time I left, I think we had about 17,000 technicians worldwide, and most of them were in the U.S. But what happened was our biggest customer ended up buying us. They ended up acquiring us. They were spending more money on service calls with us than it cost to buy us. So they bought us. Once that happened, I said, well, I have this skill. I'm fairly good at this thing, so I probably should keep doing it. So I have been doing SEO since 2004, which kind of makes me a dinosaur in this industry. I do other things as well, not to go off on a tangent or anything, but I'm also a licensed professional counselor and a licensed chemical dependency counselor. In Texas, I mainly work with veterans who have issues like PTSD, traumatic brain injuries. And so I spend a decent amount of my time on that and a PhD program that I'm in. But SEO is my passion. SEO is the way that I earn my living and has been, like I said, since 2004. So after the company sold, I just started meeting people and shaking hands. Fast forward, I was doing pretty well. I would be what most people would consider successful. I was at the six-figure mark, and I was still able to manage my time, between all my different responsibilities. And then back in November of last year, I invested in myself, and I attended a mastermind. It was fairly expensive. And while I was there, I got to meet Cotton Grammer and Mike Long, both OMG. And Cotton gave me a tip. And we were, at this point, he didn't even really know me. We were just kind of talking. Cotton gave me a tip about something. I could tell right away that this is a group I wanted to belong to. I could just tell by the caliber. And I actually joined that night. Kind of a funny story. Mike Long sent me the link at like 3:30 a.m. I think that night, because I told him, I said I want in. I said I got to get in. And they're like, oh well, we'll send you the link. And I'm like, I know you will, but I want in now. Somebody get me the link. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave and not be in, right? And I got to tell you, I felt so good when I was in. It's just like I felt like I was home. I felt like I knew that this was the place to be. So the next week, I go in, I execute that tip that Cotton gave me, and I generated almost 40 grand from it. And I don't want to go into the specifics. Of course, everything's completely legit and legal and all that stuff. But what he taught me was a simple way to do something differently than I'd been doing. It's just amazing how when you work with a master at something, how something that to them may even seem to be just so simple or so obvious, but when they look at a situation that you're in, sometimes a master can just make all the difference. They can take something weak and make it strong. And so I paid for my OMG membership 6 or 7 or 8 or however many, I'm not great at math, times over, literally less than a week. I don't even think I'd even logged in. Right? I don't even think I've logged into the members area yet, and OMG had already paid for itself like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah,
so,
like you didn't even have to, like you were already paid. You didn't even have to pay the credit card bill. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's exactly. I love that. And what's funny is, I have to. It's a little weird to say this out loud, but I felt pretty good about my skills when I went in. I'd been doing this for a long time. I felt, I kind of got this Google thing down. And I'll tell you what, it's a very humbling experience. Once you log into the back end and you start to go through, the training, because I was kind of expecting it to be just for entry-level people. And make no mistake, it absolutely is for entry-level people. You could walk into OMG machines on the back end and barely know what Google is. And if you follow the training, you will have the blueprint to become a success and to make a ton of money. But if you're not a new person, like me, I found so much value, and that money that Cotton made me in the first week, as I went through the OMG training, I realized that there were so many things, not only that I didn't know, had no clue about, but there were so many efficiencies and synergies that I was unaware of, that now my business is not only explosive as far as the money that I make now. I have had, it's either 3 or 4, I'd have to look it up, but either 3 months this year or 4 months this year, I made more in this single month than I did the entire previous year. Right, and what I was doing. And and to me, again, to say that out loud, it's kind of funny. Even as I'm sitting here, I almost have like a little shiver, to even say that. But to know what can happen, I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't. I just thought, this is a super good community, and I know that I have people here who can make my life better. People who I can surround myself with, who've mastered this thing, and iron sharpens iron, as people say. But I had no idea the impact that it was going to make. And here's the funny thing, the way that my income accelerated, the amount of work that I do now is almost identical to what I was doing before. And that's what's amazing to me. So, normally logic would tell you that if you want to make 10 times the money, you're going to work 10 times as hard. But the things that I learned in OMG and the training, there's just so many things that I was able to look at things that I was doing and say, you weren't doing them wrong. It wasn't that it was bad, but now I see this, and now I understand, that I instead of doing this, I can kind of replace it with this. And when you're surrounded by people who are doing 6-figure and 7-figure even months, their thinking is just on a different level. And again, I frequently am a contributor. I am someone who benefits from the Facebook group that we have in OMG. Frequently, I'll go in and drop a question and get an answer back. And the crazy thing is, not only will I get an answer, but the chances are extremely high that I'll get an answer from someone who is an absolute monster at that, whatever that is. If I something's going wrong with the website and I get some kind of error, it's great to have anyone that's willing to jump in and help you, and that's awesome. But more often than not, the person that helps me is, a freaking master, someone that, just has forgotten more about, hosting and websites than I'll ever know. And so, having having access to that alone, I don't even know what the dollar value would be. Honestly, for me, if you took away the back end of OMG and just gave me the Facebook group, I'd still be more than happy with the price. The Facebook alone group, to me, is worth the price.
Well, cool. So the next set of questions I've got, actually, am I here? Okay, I think I hear an echo. Nope, it's gone. All right. So anyway, so there are a lot of newbies out there, right, that have no idea what we're talking about, who are probably watching this. Well, if they've got this far, they're watching this and they're going, okay, so someone's made $11,000 and someone's made $40,000. How exactly does that work? So back to you, Fletch. What I'd like to ask is that, you have now gone through this transformation. You've put some work and effort and have gotten something back. What did you do? I mean, there's a lot of people who have no idea what an SEO is or what SEO is all about. So can you expand on a little bit of what led to that $11,000 check?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It's a good question. It's one that actually is pretty common within our community, within kind of the coaching and office hour stuff that we do nowadays. So part of what we do in OMG is the technical side of ranking, right, and getting traffic. And part B, which is why we're all here, is how to make money with this. So when I started, inherently I knew there was a problem with a lot of local construction workers, construction businesses. even local businesses outside of construction. And that was that their phones were just not ringing enough. They were not getting enough traffic to their site so that their phone would ring often enough that they, within their business were profitable and could run the business the way they needed to. So what I said was essentially to myself, I'm not the only one that has this problem. I know that. What I did initially was to take the training in OMG and apply that to my construction website. It was one that I had built. I thought it was great, but nobody else did because they never found it. I had no traffic on it at all. I ranked that in very short order for some keywords that I knew strategically would bring in business, and it did. It brought in. We went from having about 3 phone calls a month to getting 3 phone calls a day, which was well over and above anything I could handle myself. And at that point, what I did was essentially say, hey, subcontractors, I had relationships with several businesses in my area. Would you be willing to pay for these phone calls? I know the back-end business. I knew the profit margins. I knew what each job was worth. I figured that I could find some way to get a phone number on there and forward it to them and keep track of that phone call. And actually, that piece of technology is so simple, it's crazy, but I didn't know about it. But what I did was essentially sell those leads. So I sold phone calls. The first, really about 11,000. Well, actually, the first probably $200,000 that I made online were selling phone calls to local businesses. So I didn't have to get a client that let me work on their site. I didn't have to find a product. I didn't have to do anything other than rank for keywords that I knew were valuable because it was just my background. And
so you got to keep like the work. Sorry, so you got to keep the work like in your stable. You controlled everything and just directed what they wanted, the phone calls, to them, and everybody's happy.
Exactly. Yeah, that was what was so nice about that piece of it. That, there's trade-offs, absolutely, but I'd never talked to a business owner that was like, no, I don't want a phone call. Maybe they're going to ask, what's the quality of this phone call? Where'd this phone call come from? Well, it turns out these are the most valuable phone calls on the face of the planet. This is somebody that's sitting at home and has a problem, and they go on the internet and they type in a keyword like, I need to, my toilet's flooding, I need a plumber immediately. If they type that in,
right, yeah.
The first person that picks up the phone is going to get the job. And so I started looking at, keywords that really were going to convert at a high level. I wanted to rank for things that were actually, every time the phone rang, was going to equate to me making money and the company that was buying the phone call from me getting a job, getting a contract. And so I kind of started there, low-hanging fruit. It was stuff inherently that didn't have much competition, especially in the local markets. It wasn't hard to get a conversion. That's another thing online. You have to, not only get the traffic but get somebody to take action. These are things that are pretty easy. Somebody's just looking for a legitimate business that's going to come out and help them solve the problem. So that's what I did to kind of make not only that initial 11 grand or so, which was kind of the first big deposit I made, but really over that first year and a half, that was the lion's share of the money I made was just selling phone calls. I had a lead gen company.
So it sounds like, and again, please add to anything that I say here. It sounds like the true job of an SEO is to match the technical side in Google and on the computer with the conceptual side of what a business owner wants. Right? Like, I want more phone calls, so it's your job as an SEO to make sure that when the right person types in a search into Google, that company is the first thing that shows up. Yeah,
absolutely. Essentially, what we have a bunch of analogies to talk about kind of what we do. When I went in and sold these companies, phone calls, a lot of times they didn't even ask, what I was doing to generate them. I could have had a herd of people out knocking on doors and selling air conditioning. They didn't care. The people that called them needed their air conditioner fixed, and hey, that works out for everybody. So when I first started, I really didn't take a lot of time thinking about all the other things that we could do as an SEO to make money. And I've branched out since then. Cotton actually is one of the people that helped me really see opportunities in a lot of other ways to make money with this. I now have an SEO agency. Like I said, we're based in Phoenix. If you're in Phoenix, you type in SEO Phoenix. We have #1 in the maps listing. We have #1 organically. That brings in phone calls, and it's also very exactly what you said, proof. If I run into somebody in Starbucks and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're SEO," I get these phone calls from everybody. I was like, well, go, if you need proof that we can do what we do, go look for this right now, and that's me. You can see my surfer video that I got on my website. So
you've got a surfer video?
Yeah, I do.
I need to check it out.
Yeah, you need to check that out. Yeah, everybody can. It brings traffic to my site. I'm all too happy to get traffic. So, it's a growth experience, and for certain people we have, like Steven, I'm certainly not trying to speak for him. We have people that come in that are very experienced, that are accomplished, that are doing well, and the growth potential is still there. We also have people that come in like me, who had no experience in online marketing, certainly not with SEO. But at the end of the day, everybody's got their own reasons for doing what they're doing, and a lot of times they have more experience in certain things than they realize. What SEO does is it lets you make money with who you are. If you're a construction worker and you've got contacts in the business world that you're in, you can make money with SEO. If you're an 18-year-old that's looking for the best college to attend, if you want to go into kinesiology, you can make money with that. If you're a 67-year-old that says, I wish I would have made 7 different decisions in my life, you can go make money with that. It really works for everything, because right now what's happening is there's a transition, I think, that's occurring in the world, especially the technologically advanced world, where when people have a problem, the first thing they seek now is a website to start that process of fixing the problem they have or answering the question they have. And we really are, kind of, I won't say in control. We're still reactive to what Google does, but we have this reverse engineered to the degree where we're very, very successful with it. So, if you come in with like these big hopes to change the world, this is the only industry to be in. You're going to have more opportunity to change the world in this industry than in any other, because you're going to determine what solution people find when they have a question.
Wow. See that now, that I think is one of the best ways I've heard SEO, being an SEO, explained, because I believe you're right. It rings true when I hear it. So I think a lot of this mindset has come from being a part of this OMG. We keep mentioning OMG, throwing it around. I think a lot of that came from this community, and I would like to dig into that more. But I'd like to now ask Steven here. You said you couldn't go into much detail about the this $40,000 check that landed in your lap, but can you tell us maybe something else, again similar to Fletch, like, okay, what exactly did you do to land some of these clients or checks in a similar way to Fletch?
Yeah, well, one difference between what Fletch primarily does and what I primarily do is that I primarily will represent small business owners themselves on Google. So whereas Fletch will mainly, I believe, he'll have his own sites that generate leads, which he then offers to other businesses. What I do is I help the businesses kind of do it themselves. So neither one is good or bad or better or worse. They're just a different way of doing things. And so the way that I sell is very personal. It's very much through networking and personal contacts and things like that. So I try to find people and products that I want to support and I want to grow. Like Fletch said, when you have the ability to manipulate the search engine rankings, you actually have a decent amount of power. And so, I mainly work with local clients, and I'll tell you, my main motivation for that is, there's lots of big companies like Home Advisor, Angie's List, Yelp, that basically resell, what these people sell, for a markup, right? And Google prefers these big companies for lots of reasons. So I almost, in a lot of ways, feel like what I do is like a Robin Hood. Like when Walmart came into the United States, it wiped out a lot of small mom and pop type businesses. And I feel like what I do for my local clients is very much on, a counterbalance to that. So if I have, one of my local clients has an auto repair service, I help him get traffic directly to him, and then the profits stay with him, as opposed to him paying, maybe Home Advisor for it or paying Angie's List for it. Not that, again, that there's anything wrong with that, but Google's kind of set it up where it's very challenging for, let's say my client's, Joe the plumber. It's very challenging for Joe the plumber to compete with Home Advisor and Angie's List and Yelp, because Google,
Right.
right, it really likes big, massive, what we call authority sites. So again, it's a little bit like David and Goliath, but that's really kind of how I feel about it. So when I'm able to take a local client, like Joe the plumber, and I'm able to get him where he's number one, he's the one getting the traffic, he's controlling, he has a direct conduit to his clients, then that's how I like to do it. That's what makes me feel good. And the way that I generate my revenue is based on the return on investment for my clients. So the way that I'll price, my clients is in such a way that they'll typically get a 2 to 3 times return on investment, as opposed to spending the money on other mediums. And I'd like to add this too. When I'm building these businesses, properties online, that's a permanent investment in their business. So let's say that they could choose me, or they could choose Angie's List, and pay to be in Angie's List. Well, when they're doing that, they're not really doing anything to help their business. They're helping grow Angie and her business. What I do is helping them build their own business. So it has long-term results. And so, again, in a nutshell, the way that I generate that revenue is my clients will pay me monthly, every month. Most of them, it's perpetual. Most of my clients, we start and they're going to be paying me monthly pretty much forever, because I'm going to be working for them forever, and they're going to be receiving the value forever. So it's a long-term, relationship, and that's how I see it. I really am their business partner. I'm going to help them. Like Fletch said, I am going to help them to generate targeted traffic to their websites, but I'm also going to make sure that they're set up properly, to convert and to collect the leads, collect that kind of stuff. So it's really, 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 there's really a lot to it, to make it happen. But one of the things I wanted to point out is that the great thing about OMG is that I would guess that so we've talked about 2 methods of basically monetizing the ability to turn Google traffic wherever you want. Fletch talked about generating leads and selling them to businesses as one example, and I talked about charging customers a fee to rank their businesses. So those are just 2 of the business models. There's probably more than 100 different ones, and OMG I think pretty much hits all of them, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So if someone is interested in this, and they have no desire to work with clients, there's still dozens of other ways to make money online that have nothing to do with customers or clients. And so again, to me that's one of the real powerful things about this.
Yeah.
The basic skill is to be able to generate traffic where you want, but the way that you monetize it could be, again, it's probably more than 100 ways, I guess, to do that.
Yeah, no, it sounds like in a similar way, like what Fletch was saying, it allows you to work being the person that you are, or you said it more poetically.
You know what? Gosh, you're so right. That was perfect what he said, and I'm so glad that he said that. I'm not sure that it even occurred to me, but it's really powerful because different people have different types of personalities. Some people like to interact with people, and like I love to go and meet a client at their office and talk to them. But some people don't. Some people don't like to do that. And the great thing is that however you want to be. I wish I had his exact quote in front of me because it was awesome. you can do that. You can be yourself. So, if you want to be someone who's out there, meeting with clients, you can. If you want to be someone who never has a client, you absolutely can. And the great thing is that no matter which way you choose to make money with this, you're helping somebody. It's impossible to get away from it. No matter what way you choose to use this training, someone is paying you, or you're generating revenue somehow because you're helping someone grow their business. You're always doing that, and if you weren't, then they wouldn't be paying you, or you wouldn't be getting paid for it.
So all sorts of styles. I really like your approach, the Robin Hood / giving the power back to the people, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel really strongly about that. I've seen some people that have been affected. One thing, and obviously we don't want to get off on a diatribe or anything. But I've seen people whose businesses were personally affected by Google. People that had long-term businesses that were established, and this has been a little while back, but it's still happening today. And Google will kind of change the rules on you, and then their business, like almost went away. And it's a very real thing that happens. And sometimes the way that Google operates, there's some collateral damage involved. And so part of my mission, part of my passion, part of what I do, is to make sure that I am doing the things that Google wants me to do, and staying within its terms and things like that. Doing a lot of things, to make sure that that doesn't happen. To make sure that these updates that Google likes to do and things like that, that they don't negatively affect my clients. Because I'll tell you, these are real. When I get a check from a client, that's a real person that has employees. All of my clients have brick and mortar businesses and have employees. And I'm very aware that the work that I do is responsible for putting food on their table. And I'm also aware that if I am not good at my work, if I don't do a good job, that they're going to suffer for that. That there's going to be a consequence. And so again, it's a very personal thing. I know this is business, but it's also a very personal thing. When I win with my clients, it's really how I feel. I win with my clients. When we take that top position, I know that anyone that finds my client is going to receive a great product or service because that's who we work with. We work with people who are doing good things. So it's a good feeling. It's really good feeling to be able to help the businesses that should grow, and to help people find those businesses. It's just a really awesome feeling.
Well, it's also nice to see that somebody who has as much experience and has as much ability to shape the search engines to have such an altruistic viewpoint, right? One of the real movers and shakers.
Yeah, I think that you're really going to find that inside OMG. I think that you're really going to find that is the overwhelming attitude of the group. And that's one of the reasons why the community works so well, because at the end of the day, we're all here to help each other, but as we help each other and as we enable each other to succeed, we are then directly or by proxy helping other small businesses succeed. And again, we're helping the customers as well, because we're only working with really good companies and products. So really we're helping the customers as much as we are our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd actually like to know more about this community that you guys keep referring to, because and we'll start with Fletch. So Fletch, at this point, like you've jumped in and you've paid the money and you've made a good chunk of money back, right? And you mentioned something to the tune of like $200,000 something with these phone calls. Like you're at a certain point, you're not really hurting for cash, so you're still a part of this community though. Why?
Yeah, I mean, not the couple $100,000 is what I made with the phone calls. That was within about the first 10 months or so that I was in OMG. I'm about, I think, somewhere around $1.4 million, $1.5 million in the just under 3 years now total.
Hot
so
diggity.
And that's extent. It's what you want. If you want to make $100,000, you absolutely can do it. If you want to make $1 million a month, you can do that too. But The reason it comes back to kind of what Stephen was talking about. I have the ability now to live the life I want, and the life I want is, I have 3 daughters now. We've been pretty busy since I got married to my wife. I'm very much aware that they're going to grow up in the world that I help create. I also want to feel good at the end of every day, and getting messages and working with people that we have in our community to change their life feels good to me. I'm very selfish about that. I like to do it, and it also pays well. I kind of approach business as being a problem solver. If you can solve problems that people have with expertise and with care, you're going to do very well. And OMG actually kind of creates the expertise for you. So you bring into it, and you can make money with it, whatever you are, whatever you bring to it. And I really was in a position kind of before I got into this. I started the construction company I had because during kind of the last economic downturn, when everybody was losing their houses, there were statistics that I was aware of where most people that lost their house lost it because of less than $200 worth of cash flow problems a month. Like, they were very close to being able to keep it, but they just couldn't. And so
Wow,
I started.
I didn't know it was that close.
Is that crazy? Right. So,
yeah.
And these, tens of thousands of people lost their house. My parents were right on the edge of doing that themselves. So I became more and more aware of this, and this was a problem I wanted to solve. I wanted to be able to create energy efficient homes for people so that their cash flow, their utility bills were lower, and if something happened again, God forbid, they would be able to stay in their house.
Ah, that's cool. I like that. No, that's good.
Yeah, and I feel good about it and whatever, but nobody called me. Nobody knew that was what I was in business for. There was still another issue beyond that was, I think, more fundamental to most businesses, and that's traffic. So if you're in business for the right reason and you get traffic, you're going to do well. And there's a lot of people out there that are in business for the right reasons. There are a lot of people who join OMG for the right reasons. And being able to put traffic on those things we care about in the world is why we're here. That's what we do. We're here to promote the life or the values or the things that we think are important. And that's why I stay in OMG. That's why I continue to try to build a community, to help out new members, to jump on webinars where I have the opportunity to talk to people that may not be aware of what we do yet. That's kind of just my way of hopefully influencing the world to be better than it is currently. And I get paid well for it. So that's kind of a rambling answer to the question, but at the end of the day, I choose to do this because it feels good. It feels good to help people.
Well, no, that's good. Again, like Stephen, it's good to see somebody who definitely doesn't have to help anybody still doing it, right? That more of the altruistic, bigger picture point of view. Those are the kinds of people that I want in a community, like the leaders of the community that I would join. So awesome. So Stephen, same question. Like, you're definitely not hurting for cash. Why do you still stick around and help people in the OMG Machines community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that OMG prides itself about its coaches is that we're all what we call player coaches, right? Unlike in many other courses, everyone that is a coach in OMG is actually doing and making money at what they're teaching. Now, this would seem to make common sense to people.
Go figure.
Right? Right, like you gotta go, go figure, right?
Yeah.
So, but so often it's not. A good example. I told you I'm in a PhD program right now at a college, and I'll tell you, some of the people with PhDs in business probably couldn't run an actual business. They have a lot of good theory.
That's true.
But I wouldn't bring them on, right? To try to run my business. There's a huge difference between theory and application. And so
right. Well, you know what they say: those who can't teach do.
Exactly. And it's funny. It's funny you say that because people ask that question a lot, actually. Kind of the one that you just answered, but with a little bit of a twist, or asked, but with a little bit of a twist. So, I told you I joined OMG back in November. When I came on board, I was so grateful, and that's just the best word that I can use overall. I was so grateful to be part of this community that I immediately was like, I've got to give back. I have got to give back to this community. I've got to figure out a way to, to kind of pay it forward a little bit, because I received so much in such a short period of time. And again, it was all kind of like, it was mind-blowing for me, the value that I got so quickly. And so what I started doing was I had some content that, I guess was fairly good. And some of the other coaches would allow me to come on and present some of that content into the group. So before I was an actual coach, before I was actually paid to train, I did it for free for almost a year. Almost a year. I would come on probably at least once a month, sometimes more than that, and I would provide content to the group. And I did it. Again, I was not being paid. I was never expecting to be paid. I did it because I felt so grateful for the just avalanche of massive value that I was getting, not only professionally but also personally, because just hanging around with these guys, again, my business life obviously has exploded and it's awesome, but also on a personal level, getting to things like, there's the saying, you tend to be the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Right, I probably butchered the quote, but it's a fairly common one. I feel like my overall life has gotten better, since I've been a part of this group. So it's not just a financial thing, and when you're hanging around with people who are consistently making 6 figures a month, you have a shift in your mind, where you kind of go, and you may say, I know I could do that, or I think I could do that, but when you start hanging out with people who are actually doing it, you really start to believe it. You really start to, in your mind, go, conceptually, I've always kind of thought I could maybe do this if I wanted to, but when you're hanging out with these people, and you see that they're not superhuman, that they're not, some kind of weird, savant geniuses or anything, that they're just normal people like me that work hard, you start to kind of believe in yourself and believe that it's possible, and then, you start to act that way, and then, of course, what happens is it starts happening, right? And so, all of this, kind of snowballed. And then very recently, actually, for me, I was given the opportunity to come on board as an official coach and be paid and be compensated for that. And so, for me, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I was getting so much joy personally out of doing it. When I wasn't being paid, I really was. Having people, I can't tell you how many dozens of people each time I would train, would send me messages and emails and things, and you just forever, you're getting, feedback from people. I utilize that method you taught, and it's changed my life, and not just the financial stuff, but overall, when you, if you have a single mom who's able to stay at home with her kids because of something that, something that you've helped, it's hard to describe,
I get that, yeah.
And that's what we do. That's what we do. One of the things we say about OMG is that, we're a day job killer.
Day job killer. I like that.
And I got to tell you, the money's great. I love the money, and we're very well compensated for it. But for me, that feeling that I get when I'm able to be one tiny little spoke of change, and when you enable a mother to stay at home with their children, it's hard to even measure.
Yeah. See, that's cool. Worthy of applause, right? Well, I see now. It sounds like there's a lot of what did you call them? Player coaches?
Yes. So
okay. So it sounds like there's a lot of them. I'd like to know more about them. So I'm going to pose the question like this, and again, we'll start with Fletch, and then we'll go back to you, Stephen. So here's the question. There's a lot of these player coaches, Pretend that you're just starting OMG again, but you know who all these people are. Who would you reach for first to talk to, and why?
Me. So no, it's kind
I
of
like that.
just a little bit, but in actuality, that is one of the kind of primary roles that I play in OMG is really helping bring people on, get them kind of acclimated when they come into the group. Really, because I did start with relatively no technical knowledge of how SEO worked or web design or anything like that worked. It's a path I understand. I can help guide people along that, especially for folks who are new to this industry and who are new to, potentially online marketing consulting or affiliate marketing or whatever it might be. I really wanted to make sure that transition process where people are kind of, coming on board and getting their, figuring out where training materials are, figuring out, who the different coaches are. That could be something that I facilitated. But really the fundamental, core training that we all come from, that we've all made money based on, is what Greg Morrison does. Greg Morrison was the original one-man gang. He's the person that the entire company is actually named after, because with the way his skill set, his talents, and really what he produces, it creates an opportunity to run a business that makes 6-7 figures a year easy without employees. With very affordable outsourcers at most. We have people in the community right now who actually don't even have outsourcers that make several $100,000 a year. It's pretty incredible. But Greg Morrison's training on the technical aspects of SEO are kind of the fundamentals. Now, I know those, and I help teach those in the office hours that I run every week. Greg Morrison absolutely does the exact same thing when he's doing his Q&A. Joe Marfolio, who's somebody that we've alluded to and spoke a little bit about, is another player coach that we have that was brought on last year. As somebody in the same type of cast as Steven, who made money online before joining OMG, but now has been able to kind of outpace where they were before. Joe is really incredible at being able to take a problem apart into its component pieces and then say, okay, that's digestible here, that's digestible here, that's digestible here. Now you have a solution that's going to get you over that point. Because of that, the way he approaches his office hours, he does something called like hot seats. So he'll bring on a member that may have just gotten started, and they're like, how do I get my first client, or how do I rank my first site, or how do I scale this up? Or somebody that's already making 30 grand a month and they want to take it to 60 grand a month. And Joe is able to ask them questions and frame them in the right way where they start to see, well, the only reason I'm not there yet is because of this limiting knowledge or this limiting mindset or whatever it might be. Helps eliminate those blocks and get you to that next place you want to be. So that's how really Joe approaches things. Stephen Floyd, again, has had tons of experience. I don't want to speak for him, but he's on here. He's somebody that I learned a lot from in local SEO, that I've learned a ton from in the way that the maps listings work, and is also just got good character. He's somebody that I like to be around and to be able to work with. So beyond that, we've got two of the other founders, Mike Long and David Mills, who for a long time David Mills was kind of behind the scenes. He was just kind of the person conducting the orchestra, making sure everybody did what needed to be done. He was good at acquiring kind of and identifying what talent or what gaps we had that would kind of fill in the gaps, but now has been actually moved out into the forefront with some of the teaching that he has, really about the way the brain works and the best way to kind of move through life, make decisions.
I saw some of that. That was really good stuff. Like the breakthrough focus, right? Like focus on breakthroughs.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
cool. He's got a very different and uniquely his. It wasn't like he's reteaching somebody else's material. This is something that he's been working on for 20 years now. That actually, strangely, OMG is kind of a component of him launching that piece. So you get that as just a full-on bonus as being involved with OMG, is the access to just living better, being happier, being able to, he doesn't want to, I don't want to get too deeply into it, but he has just a very different approach to doing things, and he's been behind the scenes in some of the biggest online marketing launches and programs in history. So he knows success, he knows how things work. He's there, and then Mike Long, we all have access to. I digest every email he's ever written, because not only does he care about the success of the members, but he's very good at what he does.
Yeah, you know what? Liz Herrera said the same thing.
Yeah.
She said she reads all of his emails.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things when when you have access to a master and you ignore it just because it's like, no, I already got that. I got that. It's like, what are you doing? It's a friggin' email. Go read the email. And it helps you not only kind of continue to hone your focus on what we're all here to do, which is to make money. You can't make money long term without providing value. So we're all here to provide value.
Yeah.
Mike does that with a certain skill set that I think is beyond almost anybody else that I've ever found. So you get access to him in that way. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, well, no, it was just something that struck me that I had to interrupt you, because emails are so innocuous. Like you never pay attention to them. And then in 2 different interviews, both people have said, "Oh yeah, I read all of his emails, all of Mike Long's," and that just struck me. Like, no, people don't do that, and furthermore, they don't point out that they do it, right? So that was. I feel like I need to go dig up a bunch of Mike Long emails and start reading.
Right. Well, I mean, because I think we get kind of and I didn't know online marketing before I joined OMG, but I've been on it enough to be on people's lists, and it's like people are sending you emails to sell things, right? They do. It's just part of the game. It's how this industry works. There's nothing wrong with it. But people fail to kind of think about, oh, wow, I read that entire email, and I'd already bought the product. I knew he was selling. There's something there. You should learn from what you can get out of that. And then somebody that you mentioned along with that is Liz Herrera, who is somebody that was brought on recently because she is a blowout star on Amazon. Amazon is really something that we wanted to be able to kind of focus on and bring in-house as far as some training that we could offer, and Liz has done in excess of 7 figures a month on Amazon. So, and she's also just a cool chick that I've really gotten a lot out of getting to know more personally, and she's going to, not only have office hours that she provides in 2016, but core fundamental training on how to make the most out of Amazon businesses. Yeah.
So check out that interview on the channel.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, excuse me. So from newbie starting out, Fletch and doing awesome stuff. Let's go to the old school guy, Stephen Floyd. Stephen, same question, right? So pretend that you know nothing about SEO, and this is the first time being in OMG. Who are the people that you would reach for first as far as their education goes, and why?
Yeah, so Fletch, wow, Fletch really, I think, kind of, he covered most of the bases there. One of the great things about OMG, is, and I want to tell you, from my perspective as a player coach, I am as much a consumer as I am a contributor, and that's one thing that I definitely want to point out. All the things that Fletch said, it was funny. We were actually on a sales webinar just a few days ago, and I actually learned something from one of the coaches. Which is funny.
Hey, novel idea, right?
Right. I mean, they weren't there for me, and it was actually like an entry level kind of a thing in a specific area. But that's one of the things that I love is the fact that not only, like Fletch said, are the people that I work with, the player coaches, not only are they just good people, just the kind of people that you want to see succeed and win, but they're subject matter experts, not just in a single thing, but in multiple things. You can't be good at SEO in any aspect of SEO and be kind of like a one-trick pony. It's not possible. You have to be, at least highly competent in, I'd probably say, a dozen different things, to be able to be really a master of any one. And so one of the strengths, I believe, of the program and of the coaching is, kind of like we talked about before, and again, Fletch brought up an excellent point, which was about, having people having different personalities. So when someone comes into OMG, they've got so many different ways that they can make money. They've got so many different ways that they can monetize this traffic. And so where they're going to start and which coach they're going to kind of begin with and follow is really going to be based on what their game plan is. So, if they're going to start off and they want to do, some client SEO, Cotton Grammar is the best at it, period. And so, that's something that, you'd want to watch. So that would be more of a specific thing. And like you mentioned, Liz is a juggernaut at Amazon. She's amazing. I mean, she's just brilliant, is all I could say. She's just brilliant. But then there are foundational things that it doesn't matter which way that you want to monetize. And that's where, Fletch hosts his weekly training. I think it's called, somebody's called it beginner, or at some point it's been called beginner, and it is good for beginners, and there's some beginner information, but it's all the way up to like super advanced as far as I'm concerned. So, you can definitely come on his training and get, the most basic, entry-level question answered, but Fletch can hit it out of the park regardless of what the level of the question is as far as the skill level. He's capable at all different levels. And the same thing with Greg Morrison, who Fletch mentioned, who's the original one-man gang. When you're on his office hours, it pretty much doesn't matter what the topic is. He's going to be able to jump in there and swing. And if not, here's the thing. If not, we know who to point you to. So, there's a lot of things, frankly, that Fletch does that I am just, really kind of entry level at. And what's great for me as a player coach is I know what he does. I've been through all of his training. I've been through all of the coaches' training. I can then say, you know what, I'm not the right guy to answer this, so I'm gonna defer, and I'm gonna point you to Fletch's training, which is awesome. So it doesn't matter how you're gonna monetize or at what point of the game you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you're advanced. It doesn't matter if you're gonna do client or affiliate or Amazon or whatever, or if you're gonna combine them. We've got you covered. We've got someone that can do that, and you know what? You may do a couple of office hours each week. You may sit in on Greg's and Fletch's, or you may watch an assimilation webinar with Cotton. That's his kind of office hours. So really, the options are limitless for you, and really you're able to make really a custom choice. Really a custom decision based on where you're at and what you want to accomplish. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, so the next thing that I would like to jump into here is we're almost finished. We're in the home stretch, but I've been asking questions to the audience out there, and there's a couple of questions I'm hoping that you might be willing to answer. Maybe offer some tips as we head out, and then we can wrap up and with a conclusion. Is that cool with you guys?
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of right at home. This is what we do.
All right, cool. So there's been a lot of iterations of this, but what it really comes down to is that there are people who have started doing this, and they're just having a hard time because they're stuck in this weird working for free rut, right? Where it's I'll give you exposure, or you're basically getting sold on why you should do work for free, and you just can't seem to break out of that. So how would you propose to get actual real leads for the work that you want to do without having to work for free? Or I guess is that the thing that you should be doing? Should you be working for free? Should you shovel a bunch of crap and take your lumps, so to speak? Let's start with Fletch.
It's probably a good question. It's one that I don't necessarily, I haven't had any experience with personally recently. When I joined OMG, I realized that the ability to generate traffic for anybody's website was a valuable skill. When I started, I I actually went on to what was Elance at the time, right? I think it's actually merged, and it's with some other company. It's like called Upwork. It's essentially a place people can go get cheap digital marketing or creative work done from an outsourcer. I was essentially somebody else's outsourcer. And while I didn't do it for free, I certainly didn't make as much money as I do now. But I was making $20. I think one of the deals I was making like $17 an hour. Another one I was making like $27 an hour. And I had a handful of hours every month that I was working doing like on-page SEO setup, something that's menial and it's tedious and whatever, but I was getting paid for it. And what I really did, the reason I did that, the approach I took, I had to get my friggin' water turned back on, right? I had to take care of my family. But I also approached it as practice, that this was not something I was going to get into. I was going to make $100,000 in the first month, and I was going to walk away from it, and now I don't ever have to make money again. I was in it to practice. I was in this to become an expert. I was in this to become somebody that people could count on delivering results. And so every job that I took from the very first one until now, I look at as practice, and I try to practice perfectly. That was something that I got out of my previous life as an athlete. You were going to play like you practice. And the greatest performers we know of in the world, who can get on stage, who can get on a field, who can get on a court, and deliver at a high value every time, are the ones who take practice seriously. And so what I said is, I'm going to figure out a way that I can get paid for practice. Maybe it's not all I want to earn. Maybe it's not all I could charge, but it's going to get me through the day, and I'm going to build on that. And as you start to build on that, you build not only your expertise and your skill, but you also build that mindset that you're worth more because you're delivering results. You're delivering value for people. And so it kind of naturally progressed to the point where, if somebody said, oh yeah, I want you to rank my website, but I'll pay you after it gets ranked. Sorry, that's not how I work. I wish you the best. If I can answer questions for you, let me know. I do work for compensation. And there's a lot of ways to get compensated. Like Steven talked about, he gets compensated in one way. You can get paid for leads in certain ways. You can get paid as a client SEO, somebody who ranks other people's websites. But when you've got a skill set that's this valuable to every business on the face of the planet, if you just do it a few times on your own site, on a practice site, on somebody else's site that doesn't even know you just decide to rank it as practice, right? It's like, wow, I do have the ability to change people's lives. And, being compensated for that is the only thing that's going to keep you in that game. If you're doing work because you want to do the work, the only way you can continue doing it is to get paid for it, so your life works. I kind of, like I said, I haven't experienced this recently, but in construction, there were times that I did work for way less than I should have. I even took a loss on the job because I wanted to help somebody. All that happened was that company went out of business, and I couldn't help anybody else after that. So, I think each and every person on here is here because they've got a wealth of experience that they can talk about from personal experience, something that we've lived through. You shouldn't be doing SEO work for free. It's way too valuable. If you don't believe that yet, then go do it for free, but understand what it's about, like what it really delivers to your customer, to the website that you're ranking. Get involved in the Facebook group. You're going to start to see, we have just like this endless scrolling procession of earnings reports. Hey, I got this client for $2,000 a month. Hey, I got this client for $300 a month. Hey, I got this client for $10,000 a month. And your brain just shifts as you wind up in a situation where you're surrounded by people who are making a lot of money with this, who are helping people, and who are living well. And you can't help but change. That becomes the family you grow up in. That becomes your community. We grow up and we become like the people around us. And that's, I think, why when we started out here talking about the community, why that is by itself almost the most powerful, changing, transformational factor that we have is just a bunch of people who do this that make a lot of money and who live well.
Yeah, I really like what you said about just doing it, because like the fulfillment that you get yourself. I actually, a quick personal story about me. There was a point where I wanted to, I almost quit doing the YouTube stuff, and I was feeling really down in the dirt, and I had made a video a few weeks earlier about the Festival of Color. And long story short, in like 2 days, that video had like 10,000 views, and that sort of brought me back, like snapped me back into reality, and said, "Yeah, you can do this. Like you have proof, you've tested reality, and it is as it is." And it's very motivating and very fulfilling to do that. So also with your follow up of, if you think your SEO services aren't worth anything, then do it for free and then start charging for it. So, well said. Stephen, same question, right? You're like, what would you tell people that that feel like they have to work for free, or maybe they just have that question of, should I do some work for free and then start charging, or should I just be focusing on offering a service like Fletch says, like service rendered, service paid?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that you can get started in this. I will tell you that in OMG, well, let me ask you this first. Are you familiar with the phrase "foot in the door"?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Somewhat.
Okay. And so, foot in the door is a phrase that I think Dale Carnegie came up with in his one of his trainings from like 1920 something. And what that refers to is a sales technique where you will offer someone, a potential client, something that's very, very inexpensive or even free possibly, to get your foot in the door, as it's called. So once you have a relationship with them, you can then sell them something that's a more appropriate value, right? Well, I'll tell you that in OMG, we teach you, I'm just going to throw out a number, I'm sure it's higher, at least a dozen ways to do that. We teach you, it's probably double or triple that. But off the top of my head, I'm just going to, I'm going to stick with 12 as a number. A dozen different ways that you can approach different types of business owners with things that are very little cost, which will then enable you to get your foot in the door once you have a relationship, and then you'll be able to charge for your services. So as a journeyman, a lot of times, my program I mentioned, I do intern hours, as a therapist that I don't get paid for. It's part of my program. So I am, in effect, working for free, while I'm in my program. And I think that there's definitely a time and a place for that. But I'll tell you this. There was a quote, and I can't remember the guy's name. I never can. Who is the billionaire that owns Virgin Airlines? What's his name?
Richard Branson.
Thank you, Richard
God,
Branson.
you beat me.
Thank you, Fletch. So Richard Branson, he has a very famous quote where he says, if you're offered a fantastic opportunity and you don't know how to do it, say yes and figure out how to do it. I'm paraphrasing. He said it much more eloquently, I'm sure. But here's the thing that I can tell you. If you are in OMG, you can rank clients. Okay, that's just it. It's just a fact. It's not a variable. You're going to have that skill. And so, I think that what happens with a lot of our members, even our very newest members, is they have a lot of confidence walking in, because even though they may not have ranked a website yet, they trust that the people who are teaching them and all of their fellow members, with, again, thousands of stories of people who have done this, it gives them the confidence to go in there. And a lot of times we will start off for smaller fees. But personally, if someone asked me just straight up, would you do some free work? The only time I would say yes for that would be probably for like maybe a family member or a close friend to like as a portfolio item. If you want to help a family member or a close friend, get some web traffic and build their online presence, and also at the same time it helps you build your business, I think I'm good with that. I don't think I'd ever be, a big fan of you doing that for, a complete stranger, putting in, a whole lot of time and energy, toward that. And again, if I didn't know for sure that we could get the result, I'd have a different answer. But I know that it's 100%. There's no question. that once you're in, you're going to be able to provide the services that you're selling. There's no question you're going to be able to do that. The only variables really are time and money. We can get any client, really what they're looking for, as long as there's enough of an investment in time and money for it. So I would say though, at the end, kind of a closing, what Fletch mentioned about being an outsourcer on places like Upwork and Elance and things, it's genius, because what'll happen is you may take some of this work that appears like smaller. I actually am an employee or employer on some of these services. I spend a lot of money on outsourcers, and what people would be surprised to find is they may go on and they may find a $200 like a project right on Upwork, and turns out they do a good job, and that turns into lots of money, like the kind of money we're talking about. This was just a one-off project for the company, but you show them that you can get the results that they want to get, and you have the confidence. And so, you parlay that smaller job into, a much bigger job, and that's happened a lot actually. That's not an uncommon story.
Yeah.
That we hear.
It's interesting that you say that, because actually my brother did something like that without knowing that he did it, and he made his own little tiny niche unto itself. He was in the video game industry. He's the 3D animator. And then that parlayed into he said, how can I get more sustainable work than just working for another gaming company that goes under? So he started doing the only thing that required the same level of intense animation that he did, like the same as guys in video games exploding and dying, was medical animation, like the exact opposite. So these companies would be selling tools, right, medical tools, and they would have to go to trade shows and stuff, and they needed something to say this is how it worked. So they had to get a 3D render, because that way it looked more real, of a blade cutting the I was going to say victim, the patient, right, cutting it, and then doing all this stuff, and it required very, very detailed anatomical rendering that he knew how to do and had experience with. So he did that same sort of thing, but he found like brokers almost in a similar way of like Elance. But then after a while, he's like, wait a second, I'm only getting paid 25%, but I'm doing all of the work. Yep. So he just hopscotched over them, and the last company that he did that when he became his own company, they got really, really mad because he took out the middleman, right? But it was that same thing, and then the next thing you know, he goes to an event, a trade show, and all of his animations are in all of the different stalls, and that's when he realized, wow, this is its own little industry, and he charges out the nose for his animations, and he's always busy, he's always working, right? So I love that. Start small, and it could easily parlay into something either within a company or like your own gig. That's
a perfect example. How things like that work out. When you had the skill set that you can then extrapolate to so many different things. There's an OMGer who was doing Amazon consulting, meaning that they were companies who were on Amazon, who were selling products, were paying them, as a consultant to come in and, make sure their listings were good and help them to get some rankings and things like that, and kind of the same thing kind of happened. This guy said, wait a minute, wait a minute, why am I doing this and getting paid this when I can just open my own darn store? And so, absolutely. And so now that's what he's doing, and that's, and the great thing about it is, could he have done it without OMG? Possibly, he possibly could have done it, but here's the great thing. Number one, being in OMG and in the community gave him the confidence, to feel like he could really kind of do it on his own. That's number one. But number two, it also gave him the support in the community to know that if there were things that he didn't know on the other side of that job, that he would have resources and people who could help. Because that happens a lot in brick and mortar businesses. Where a guy will say, hey, I'm a locksmith and I work for this locksmith. Well, I'm doing all the work. Why don't I just start my own locksmith business, right? So they do, and then what they figure out is that they're a great locksmith, but they don't really understand business. They don't know about advertising and marketing and sales. And so, they end up not being successful. The great thing about OMG's community is that, again, you have such a plethora of experience. You can't name a niche or a market that exists that we don't have members that are in. You just can't. It's not possible. Not anything that's, has value to it. If you want to do real estate stuff, we got people who specialize in real estate. If you want to do, restaurants, we got people that specialize in restaurants. No matter what your thing, there's always, if not, a whole huge group of people, then there's at least a few who are, again, kind of, top of the food chain kind of people who would be able to help you through that. And having resources like that, it's hard to know because, again, you don't know what problems you're going to have once you reach that next level, right?
Yeah.
If I have 10 SEO clients and all of a sudden I do a great job and now I have 20, you don't know if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have a support system, you don't know what it takes to go from 10 members to 20. But when you have someone like Cotton Grammar who's got, over 100 clients, who's done it in a year, then, and not just him, of course, but I'm saying, someone like him, that person, they can take you to that next level. So it's great that you can go from 0 to whatever. A common income goal when people are starting off is $10,000 a month. It's great to know that you can do that and there's people to support you, but it's also good to know that when you're ready to do 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 plus, that there's still people there. There's still an active group of people who are willing to help you and support you. And, I don't know how many 8-figure earners there are on OMG, but they're there. And there's quite a few 7s, right? But I know that there's some 8s as well. So it really doesn't matter kind of where you're at or where you're going. Where the community has got you covered.
See, the more I hear, the more I keep circling this little note that I made on my note card. It said not OMG, OMGU for OMG University, right? Because that's what it sounds like. Like you've talked about classes, you've talked about different types of industries, almost a kaleidoscope of opportunities, if you will. And on top of it, you just mentioned, 6, 7, and 8-figure earners. That's like the alumni, right? Like that, all that right there. It's like a university.
Yeah, it is. The only difference is, that your average 4-year college, I believe, is now it's up to like it's over $100,000.
Oh yeah, it's bananas.
Yeah, and your average earnings for a 4-year degree is is 50-something thousand. So when you look at that, there's a kind of a stark contrast there between the investment to join OMG versus the average earnings or potential earnings. When you look at that versus a college education, you kind of just go, wow.
Yeah, and didn't you say earlier, I wouldn't bring on a PhD to a business project?
Yeah, and again, the whole player coach. And the community, it's really powerful because there's nothing that is better than having someone that's been there, because they are going to be able to help you avoid issues that you don't even know are issues because they've actually done it. Like, I'll give you an example. When it gets to a point where having billing, like when a lot of people start off doing what I do, client SEO. They're making these invoices by hand with like an Excel spreadsheet, right? And it takes them maybe, let's say it takes them 10 minutes, per customer, right, a month to update it and type in the new fields, right? Well, when they're up there and they've got 20 customers or they've got 30 customers, well, now you're talking at a significant difference in investment and time, right? So to be able to go to them and say, hey, look, here's the solution I use, right? Here's a solution, that automates that a little bit for you. And rank trackings is another example of that. You may use some free tools, or you may even literally go and check them yourself in Google. But as you grow, you have to be able to to automate and synergize and set up processes. And again, who knows how to do that? The people who've already been down the road that you're traveling. I doubt there's a question that you could ask or a problem that you could find in the world of internet marketing that we live in that we can't get an answer from in our group. I just don't.
Well said. Yeah. Well, so then I do have a question that I'm sure that you can answer. It's the last one for you guys, right? So again, we'll start with Fletch and then we'll go to Steven. So as I've been polling people and asking questions, I've gotten a lot of random questions that I think comes down to the basic, how do I SEO a site? Now, I already know enough about SEO that's too broad of a question, right? So I'm going to make something. I'm going to pose a question a little bit more answerable, right? So like when it comes right down to it, well, what is SEO? How do you do SEO? How do you rank in Google fast? Like, I mean, it comes down to a couple of key components. One of which is keyword research. So without saying how do I SEO a site, one of the major components is keyword research. So I would ask you, when you get a client, how do you start doing that research? How do you start that psychology of how do I put myself in the customer's shoes so that I can figure out the best way to represent my client in front of the customers that he wants to see? So how do you jump into that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It is one that's fundamental to our industry, how we work, not only on an internal project, but one that we might be working with a client on. It really, for me, it comes down to the exact same thing that unfortunately this webinar, platform doesn't work as well with as it does face to face, which is I ask questions. I ask questions about what that business owner truly does in their industry, what they do in their business, in their job, what they do day to day, about the position in their industry that they want to uphold or promote. Do they want to be known as the best priced locksmith, or the fastest locksmith, or the locksmith that can get into any lock on the planet? Those are different positioning elements that come into play for keywords that you want to go after. On your own projects, it's going to work the same way. For people that I'm talking to that I get a chance to talk to personally, that are thinking about OMG, or they're thinking about coming on board as a client for Search Explosion, my agency, I get to ask them those questions. And it really comes down to what they want to do. That's what's so powerful about the search engines, and especially Google right now, is that everybody is going there. Everybody is going there to get their question answered. And there are going to be people that want to go to Google and find the fastest locksmith on the planet because they've got 3 kids that are in the cold and they can't get in their house. There are also people who are like, I don't got any extra money, but I got time, and I can sit on my rocking chair on the front porch here and wait for the guy to arrive. They probably want the best price locksmith. There are also people who are like, you know what, I just spent $10,000 on the safe and I forgot the combination, or I lost the key. And I don't think many people are going to be able to get into it. So I need to find truly a locksmith that can work on exceptionally challenging locks, or whatever. You're kind of getting the drift of hopefully what I'm getting at. It depends on the business. It depends on the business owner. Depends on the person that owns the product, what they want to be known as, how they want to be positioned in that market. Yeah. Can you go rank for all those? Absolutely. But let's start with the stuff that you really want to be known for, or that is low-hanging fruit as far as competition is concerned.
So like an identity, a lot of times referred to as a social footprint.
Right. Yeah. No. And then, when we start to work ourselves, once we understand where you want to go, then we figure out the path on how to get there. And that path is going to include setting up your website the right way, so that your pages actually tell Google what the page is about. If it's best priced, if it's fastest, if it's exceptional, degree of, skill at picking locks, or whatever it might be. You get that. You set the website up first, then you figure out what's going to refer to that website. Those are links. Those are traffic that we can manipulate at times. Those are social signals that we can facilitate with content and articles and different triggers from Twitter, from Facebook, from Pinterest, from places like this. Those all come into play for SEO. These are the kinds of things that are really the metrics or the tools that we have available to us as SEOs. But it all comes from, what do you want to be known as? You've got to have some content. You've got to have something on your site or your video, your URL, your page on the internet that says, this is what I'm about. And then we just kind of work backward from there.
Cool. Very cool. All right, and it totally makes sense, like that digital presence, right? That's what you want to create, and but you want to put some thought into it of like, okay, who do you want to represent yourself as online, because that's who people are searching for on the other end.
Right,
So,
exactly, and that's what helps us then also kind of take that next step almost by default, which is conversion. Somebody who's doing a
yeah,
search actually finds the right page. They find the right information. Oh yeah, this is, the
yeah.
speediest locksmith in Phoenix or whatever it might be. So it just helps with that next step, which is conversion, which is then how we monetize this skill set. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, and even in a way, it also benefits the consumer because they find the right person the fastest way, and then everybody has warm fuzzies about Google.
Absolutely. That's we're not in competition with Google. We rely on Google. We need Google. We need Google
Yeah,
to create this massive marketing presence that draws people to that search engine so that now we can help the clients or the businesses or the products that we represent show up in the SERPs to help people that are looking for it. So we really look at ourselves as kind of partners, or at least I won't say subservient, but within the industry that Google has dominated. So yeah, they're
right.
not, we're not a competitor with them. We follow the guidelines, not that they necessarily publish, but that they actually put into place as far as reverse engineering the search engines,
Right.
so that we don't. Yeah, I'm not saying you can't, but there's no need to really be spammy and do
Yeah,
a bait and switch on people for traffic or keyword ranking or anything like that. Yeah.
yeah. It's so 1995 anyway.
Yeah, right.
So, all right, Stephen, same question, last one before the conclusion. Again, we don't want to know, like, how do I SEO a site? No, that's not what we're looking for. More down into more of a keyword research aspect, like, what's the psychology that you're going into? What are you thinking about when you say, okay, I'm going to do this thing for my client? As we've said before, the Robin Hood approach, or giving the power back to the people. How do you jump into that and get in that mindset?
Absolutely. Well, again, like all the other questions, pretty much, Fletch did a fantastic job covering it. All of my clients begin by filling out a discovery form for me, which is 3 pages long, and I would say it probably takes 30+ minutes to fill out, which asks a ton of questions about what some of their business goals are, and just a bunch of things. So before I even begin, I already have a lot of a lot of information about them, and so my keyword strategy, really, a lot of it is going to be based on the client, but most of it, or as much, is going to be based on the competition and kind of where the value is. So I will do a lot of competition analysis and competitor research, very, very detailed, to figure out where the people who are they consider their competitors and who their true competitors are, where are they getting traffic from, and what parts of those traffic are converting and how. So for me, the keyword research, it'll begin with the client and what are their needs, what are their wants, but then it will be filtered through what my market research tells me, because I'll tell you what happens is a lot of times the client is, we say, too close to the fire, right? It's a phrase. To really understand what keywords have value for them. So I'll give you a perfect example. I work with plastic surgeons a lot in the Dallas area, and a plastic surgeon, when I was talking about his keywords, he mentioned rhinoplasty, as an example. And so, is it important for us to rank for rhinoplasty? Sure, it is, but nose job, about 1,000 times more important, right? So, there's a kind of a famous quote I love from Henry Ford, where he says, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Right?
Yeah.
So,
they can have what is it? They can have any color they want as long as it's black.
Yeah. So I always love that quote, because to me it really, it really talks about kind of out of the box thinking, and so, again, part of my job is to listen to my client, and but then also, what they're really ultimately paying me for is my experience. And so, I am going to figure out, interview them in depth on what they want, but then I'm going to figure out again who's winning in their niche and their market. Who's winning? Who's getting the most traffic? Who's getting the most conversions? And where are they getting them? And then that's what I'm going to base my strategy around. And I'll tell you why. I had a paradigm shift about a year ago. I had a client who was absolutely convinced that their competitors were making a ton of money off of these certain keywords ranking on Google, and I was kind of busting my head trying to figure out how, because the traffic and things just didn't justify it. And what I found out was that this particular client, or this competitor, this one in particular, which was kind of like the main person in this whole niche, was getting almost 100% of their traffic from social media. And so it wasn't Google. They weren't making any, they were getting very little traffic from Google itself. They were getting most of their traffic, the overwhelming amount, from social media. So at that point, I then had to shift gears and move into, doing promotions through social media. So, a very comprehensive, in-depth market analysis and competition analysis, which again, I know Fletch does this as well, obviously, is really going to be, a good start. And then, as Fletch mentioned also, regardless of where I end up going though with those keywords, establishing the identity and the brand that they want to establish, is going to be very important. It's going to be a centerpiece of what we do, because, at the end of the day, a lot of what's going to get you sales, especially on the higher end area, is going to be, what's your unique value proposition, right? Or what's your perceived value, right? And so we have to make that clear, like Fletch said. Do I want to be the the fastest plumber in town, or do I want to be the cheapest plumber in town, or do I want to be the best plumber in town? Those are very different messages. That's a very different demographic for each of those. And with what we do, you can absolutely sculpt what type of business that gets. And so really it's a combination, I think, of all the things that Fletch said. And the things I said, but again, I think he does pretty much all the same stuff I mentioned too.
So it sounds like everything that you're doing, your mindset and how you're looking at the whole landscape really shapes how you do your keyword research, how you implement your on-page SEO that lead to that ranking on the first page of Google.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the people who are winning whatever battle you want to fight, there are some things that they're doing, right? Success leaves clues, as they say, right?
Right.
And so that's always going to be a big part of how I approach things for a client. I do want to have some out of the box thinking though, like I mentioned with the Henry Ford quote. And we do want to find some things, some ways to do some things outside of the box. But again, if we kind of know who the competitors are and kind of who kind of owns that space, a good way to start is to kind of infiltrate that space, kind of figure out what they're doing, and kind of do what they're doing, do a little bit better.
Well, it almost sounds like you're observing an ecosystem and how that ecosystem works, and then you're figuring out how the best way to introduce you as a new element to the ecosystem and have it work well. Because if not, then you're in the Google sandbox.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, an analogy a lot of us like to use, and I'm not sure where I heard this first, a long, long time ago, but we talk about, like, if you're playing a game of poker, right? And we always ask, would it be helpful to you if you're playing a game of poker if you could see your opponent's hand, right?
Yeah.
And the question would be yes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Would. And the thing is, when you're trying to rank on Google, the answer is always yes, because Google always shows you their hand, right?
Yeah, that's true. Right there in the search results, right?
Right. All I have to do is look at page 1, right? Who's winning? Right? Who's winning? What does Google want? What do they like? Well, there's my answer. I look at page 1. So it's not that simple, obviously. There's a lot more to it. But I'm saying at a very basic level, there's a lot of common sense to that. So, a lot of, like you said, observing, the current ecosystem, observing, the winners and what their habits are and what they're doing is going to be very valuable pretty much, I think, in any, any business, regardless of online or offline.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I mean, we are now to to the conclusion. I appreciate your guys' time. We've been at this for about 2 hours. I know anybody who's watching this appreciates this as well. So I'm going to wrap this conclusion, basically with the future. I would like to know from both of you, in the same order, what do you see? Like, we're at the end of 2015, we're looking to 2016. What is the future? What are you going to be focusing on in your company, right? Like that's one of the components of being a coach player in OMG is that you're actually doing it, right? So the thing that you're doing, what's the future plans in 2016, and then also, what do you see as the future of OMG? Where do you think that direction is going in 2016? Start with you, Fletch.
I hope it doesn't come across as like being salesy or anything, but I'm more excited now about SEO, about my agency, about OMG than I have been at any time. And that includes that, at that time when I actually could pay the water bill and get my friggin' utilities turned on. Just having this kind of be a movement and a work in progress, we kind of got to this tipping point where we now have, for lack of a better term, assets. We got these player coaches. We have training that we've proven that it works. We've got Stephen Floyd, who comes in with his wealth of experience and background that he empirically tests rankings. He reverse engineers them like he just talked about. Greg Morrison's been doing that since we started. Cotton Grammer has been doing that since he started. I now am doing that. And we wind up kind of with this perfect storm of not only, yeah, we can rank for whatever keyword we want to go after, but there's this community of people who are also going to help you make money with that and live a good life. So for me, within OMG, if you want to learn SEO, if you want to take control of the reins, so to speak, on traffic to your business or to the business of your clients and customers, you need to understand traffic from search engines, primarily Google. There is one place to learn that, and it's OMG. So as far as OMG Machines is concerned, I'm very excited about that. Within my own agency, we've been doing some, this last year, putting together kind of these larger projects. It sounds stupid for me to say kind of larger, but a lot larger than anything I would have ever expected getting into, but they work. And so kind of explaining what that means is that what I'm in a place to be able to focus on now is progress and efficiency. And so progress means I can rank for tougher and tougher keywords, and efficiency means I can do that faster and cheaper. And so this last year I've been really working on doing both of those things. So now not only within my agency can I do that to make a lot of money for myself, for the rest of the people on my team, but that also trickles down into OMG. This, as Stephen mentioned, as we talk about, is really one of the core principles in OMG Machines. We're all player coaches. If OMG Machines goes away, we would probably start it back up because we like helping people, but we're not dependent upon it for our income. We do very well outside of OMG, and that's what's nice is that we have now this kind of central hub of a community where we get to come together and share and really build everybody else up and fill in some gaps. What Stephen is incredible at may not be the thing that Cotton's great at, and what maybe I came across, maybe I need Greg to help me test it because my brain doesn't work the way his does. It works out so that we all benefit as kind of the core of OMG, but also the entire community benefits of not having to go out there on the internet and do a search for yourself and try to rely on their trustworthiness or how validated the instructions that you're going to find are. Yeah. So that's really the thing that, you save so much time being able to say, taking myself, Fletch ranks for SEO Phoenix, and he did that with only a handful of links and schema. He must know how schema affects the search engines. So I can now trust that. He's shown me that he knows how to do what he's talking about. Stephen knows how to put people in the maps. He knows how to work with local clients. Cotton knows how to scale an agency because he's doing friggin' 600 grand a month worth of revenue. I mean, it's like where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. We can kind of show you that, yes, this works. So Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I
No,
was just gonna say, it almost sounds like a union for SEOs.
a little bit, except we probably, if our political, profile were laid out there, we might
Right,
go the
yeah.
opposite direction toward anarchy. But
There
aside
you
from
go.
that, we do,
I like,
kind of.
maybe closer to Honor Among Thieves,
There we go.
like a
There we
band of
go.
brothers.
Yeah,
There we go.
we know that we trust each other by results.
There
So
we
that's
go.
cool. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, Stephen, same question. Where are you? What do you see in 2016 for, first of all, like what you do, your company, right? And then what do you see in the future for OMG and how that's going to evolve?
As I mentioned earlier, I am very much a consumer of OMG content and training. And so, I'm also the newest player coach. And I mean, very new. It's just last month that I came on board. And so my personal business, I'm actually going to be branching out into a lot of these other ways to monetize traffic because I feel like I have the confidence now with the training and the community to be able to not only compete but to dominate. To be honest with you, so my personal business, I'm never going to stop doing what I do with my client SEO business. I love my clients. I love what I do. And I will probably steadily grow that. I also refer away a lot of business to people who are OMG members who are also here locally to where I'm at. I do that as well. And so my personal company, I think is going to stay. It's going to grow, but probably slowly as far as the client side. But I'm gonna branch out into Amazon and into doing some more e-commerce stuff, and just I'm like a kid in a candy store. I've got I've got all these ways that I can make money, and I just feel so confident in not only the training but the community that I feel like I can do anything. I feel like if I wanted to be a millionaire from doing Amazon, that I had the support in the community and the knowledge and the training to do it. And so, I'm going to really, really, explode personally or professionally in 2016, business-wise. On the OMG side, what I plan on doing is trying to really coordinate and support some of the other or all of the other player coaches. And try to really kind of figure out how I can do things to help up their game, which ups all of our games, really the whole community. If I can help Greg Morrison test some things he's testing, possibly, then that's just better for everyone. Fletch, Cotton, and so and as far as like research and development, I'm going to be doing way more. I've always been a research and development guy. I love SEO and I love, that stuff. I made the joke earlier about math, but I'm actually kind of a math nerd and a statistics nerd. And so I love testing things. I love breaking things. And so I'm going to be doing a lot of research and development. And so, I'm just hoping to, contribute as much as I can to the group and just add as much value as I can. And hopefully, 2016, well, not hopefully. I know it's going to be the best year ever for the group. There's just so many indicators for this, and so I'm just so happy to be, again on board and kind of the new kid on the block. So I'm gonna do my thing, but I'm gonna really, really try to kind of synergize and kind of help the other coaches and the other community members grow and do what they're doing.
Well, cool. Very cool. I really appreciate your time, both of you. It's been fantastic. All of the questions that I wanted to have answered have been answered, and even any answer that gave more questions, those questions were answered too. So really appreciate all of your time. Just my own little bit about OMG machines. I've had the opportunity to see all of the content and see just the massive amount of content available. I mean, there's no one putting a gun to your head saying you have to go through everything. And as we've discussed, one or two minor things can make a ton of money. So you don't have to go through everything first. But it's also very nice to see that there is a wealth of opportunity ahead of you, and you just need to take little bits at a time, and you'll be successful. And then on top of that, you've got all these people surrounding you, very able and willing. It's not just the fact that they can do it, but they are also willing to sit down with you and help you through these communities that are available. So if there's anything that you need to know about, you have more questions, there will be a link to direct you somewhere where you'll be able to get even more information. But I really hope that you enjoyed this interview. We're going to be having more interviews with more of the people that were mentioned. So definitely stay tuned, subscribe. Once again, thank you to both Stephen Floyd and Fletch. Give them a round of applause. All right. Thanks again. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.